We're here today to discuss as Openreach Fibre to the Premises have served notice on attendance patterns on a 4-day week and 9-day fortnight all year round to move those individuals onto a seasonal attendance pattern. We will come on then throughout this podcast to discuss what that means, what seasonal attendance is, what the CWU are doing, and what you can do as well. So I want to introduce the people that I've got with me here today. So first of all, I've got myself. I'm Fiona Curtis. I'm the CWU National Officer. And I've also got Graham. Do you want to introduce yourself, Graham?
Graham Colk, I'm on the National Executive and I'm Chair of the Openreach National Team.
Josh?
Yeah, hi all. Yeah, Joshua Barclay. I'm on the Openreach national team.
So I suppose, Graham, just one of the first questions then to explain to our members, what is the attendance issue that we've actually faced and maybe some of the back history to this as well?
Yeah, I mean, this is an issue that's been going on for 2 to 3 years in that the company have looked at their data and have identified that 4-day attendances and 9-day fortnight attendances are not as efficient as a 5-day attendance. The issue we've had is that they're the standard attendances that we always offer, and it's key to us that we have a flexible attendance patterns. But they've provided data initially on safety in the hours of darkness in winter, but they've now added to that in terms of the fact that it's less efficient for people who work on a 4-day and to a lesser extent people on a 9-day fortnight than the 5-day attendance. We've obviously worked with them, and you will have done preference exercises previously, and those exercises would give you an option to demonstrate what attendance you'd want. They've now, following that process, have come to the position where they're going to serve notice because the remaining people, which is around about 153, are still on either a 4-day attendance and a 9-day fortnight. And let's be clear, we do not agree with them serving notice.
Josh, can you please explain what seasonal attendance patterns are, just especially for members who might not be very clear on what that means, and especially with Openreach now serving notice for people to move on to a seasonal attendance pattern?
Yeah, sure. And look, seasonal patterns. It's quite simple, really. From the 3rd of November to the 9th of February this year, for those weeks over that Christmas period and leading into the new year, you will be going on to a 5-day week. Now, look, we fundamentally disagree that we should have even got to this point. And if you are put on to a 5-day week and it doesn't suit you for whatever means, whether that be for childcare commitments, family caring, or you've just had your pattern that you're always used to, then speak to your manager, get a P&D put in place, speak to your local CWU branch where support you in that. And if you do get pushback, we can make sure that you do get that P&D. Like I say, and as as Graham's quite rightly pointed out, as a view, Fiona, we disagree with the action here Openreach have taken. So yeah, hopefully that explains the sort of seasonal pattern.
Yeah, I think the important thing for people to remember is that even if you've already moved on to a seasonal pattern, that you can still have a P&D. This is not just for those individuals.
Exactly.
And serving notice on the people who haven't changed is put them in a really difficult position and is not the way that we would wish them to approach this.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's where, if I come on to, is what we had proposed as a CWU for Openreach not to serve notice on our members. And what we had proposed was that there was going to be a preference exercise and that it would be determined by you, the members, whether you accepted this or not. But the preference exercise would have the 9-day fortnight all year round, the 4-day week seasonal, which what Josh was explaining meant that during that period from the 3rd of November to the 9th of February, it would be a 5-day week. And then it's the same with the 9-day fortnight seasonal. And then there would be the option of a 5-day week. So that what we had as a compromise was removing the 4-day week all year round, which ties into what Graham was saying around the efficiencies and the business coming to us to demonstrate some of those efficiencies and working in the hours of darkness. And what we would have done on the back of that was put that to you, the members, across the whole of FTTP, for you to either accept that or say no, that that wasn't what attendance is that you wanted. And it was the democratic process that you would have then accepted that and agreed that. And that would have been the attendance patterns for FTTP moving forward. And it would have been that anybody new moving into FTTP. So we know that there's been moves throughout the last number of years across other parts of Openreach. We even know recently from the fibre build, Openreach called it Project Green. There was a number of individuals moved across into fibre to the premises, and that this would have been the attendance pattern and the arrangements for everyone. And it would have been that you selected two preferences. So you select your first preference and your second preference, and then on the back of that, then there would have been a minimum of 50% would have got their attendance preference. So initially, the preference exercise would have just went out to those that were still remaining on a 9-day fortnight all year round or a 4-day week all year round, and also then anybody new moving into FTTP. So that's what the preference exercise would have contained, and it was down to you to actually accept that. But this is where now we're in an unfortunate position where Openreach have rejected it.
Yeah, and the important thing about that was, one, that we were identifying that they had made a case for less efficient and work and safety in working in the hours of darkness, but which meant that we were prepared to compromise. Unfortunately, the company hasn't compromised in the same way. But the second part of that is that prior to that being agreed, it would have been a consultation with yourselves, and in order to accept that as an attendance preference for the future, rather than just serving notice on people.
I think that's really important about the reasons of why we were going to do that. And it was on the basis of what the company had came to us with around the inefficiencies. And especially we know there's competition out there. We know that Openreach are feeling the pressure at the moment, and they want to get as many fibre to the premises installs completed as much as they possibly can. And it was about us trying to also protect that and protect you for the members as well. But it would have been down to you to decide whether that was acceptable to you. And this is then where we will come on to around what you want us to do and what you're willing to help us with as well. I suppose then that brings us on to then what is our response on the back of Openreach doing this, and especially around the imposition, because we want to be really crystal clear that we do not agree with them serving notice on these attendance patterns. We were trying to get around that negotiating table. As Graham mentioned earlier on as well, it's been over 2 years that we've been trying to avoid getting into this situation, that we have had a couple of different agreements in place around preference exercises. We know, though, that some of our members, some of the feedback that we've got from you is around, I suppose, the cohesion as well from some of the management. And we need to make sure that we're aware of that, and that the CWU speak to your local CWU reps if that has been the case. But what is the CWU response now in the back of this?
Yeah, I mean, two things we have to be clear is, one, that it's unacceptable for people to have imposed attendances on them, when particularly that the CWU has put forward a compromise which we understand went to Openreach's executive and was rejected by them, even though the compromise would have delivered significant gains in terms of efficiency. But what we need to do now is, while we don't accept the imposition, we need to find out from yourselves what it is that attendances that you really want, right? Because it's important for us to see those of you who are likely to be angry about this. We need a method of ensuring that you are able to tell us what you want and what attendances. So we're going to be sending out a survey to you initially in order to establish those facts, and we urge you, when you get that, to complete this survey. You'll also have conversations with your local branch, which will help you work out if there's any issues around filling in the survey. But it is key that you now tell us what you want for the future. This is potentially attack on attendances right across Openreach, and we need to make sure that it's not something that gains a hold, because what we want is for you to be able to have a work-life balance where you get the attendances that enable you to have a family life. But also for Openreach, for them to close down attendances, it actually restricts the type of people that can be employed in the future. You know, people with children and other caring responsibilities, makes it more difficult. So the key to this is that you complete the survey.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a really important point there, Graham. I think that these are your attendance patterns, and you need to fight for them, because if you don't, you'll lose them. And I think that's it's quite a blunt, serious tone there, but it's very real that if this happens here in FTTP, it's very possible that it can happen in complex engineering, in SD, in other parts of Openreach. So it's vital that you give us the support, we give you the support, fill out the survey, tell us what you want, and we will be directed by that. I think that's really key. So yeah, I think it's just fill out the survey is what I would say.
I think that is, I suppose, because leading on to kind of nearly the final part of this podcast, that the survey is a vital part of this, and speaking to the local CWU reps, because we need to know whether you actually are okay with the seasonal attendances and the 5-day week, or whether you are willing to fight for a 4-day week all year round, a 9-day fortnight all year round. And because what you were saying there, Josh, that these are your attendance patterns, and it's about what you want and what you want us to do, because we are a collective and you are part of the CWU, and there's no point in us negotiating something that you don't want. And this is where we need to know what you want and what you're willing to help fight for with us. And that's where then that will become clear on the back of the survey. So I would say, please fill in that survey. Let us know what attendances are important to you, so that we can then campaign collectively around those attendance patterns for you. And that's where what Graham was saying, it is really important that our branches will be contacting you as well to speak to you, to see what your thoughts are on it. Because if we don't get the response, then we're not going to be able to know what it is you want.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective, we in good faith sent out preference forms, and people completed them and made a preference, and they should not be punished for filling in a preference form which said they wanted to keep the existing attendances. And we have been fortunate enough to push the company back from actually moving those people onto 5-day attendances, and they are offering seasonal attendances. However, at the end of the day, it's an imposition, and that is the thing that is unacceptable. I think Josh was most probably going to cover the personal and domestic again, because we do need to make an important point again about the personal and domestic attendances.
Yeah, no, you are right, Graham. It's so important that, look, if you're on a P&D at the moment, you will keep that P&D, and if anything like that changes, you're sort of being pressured to come off the P&D, then please speak to your branch. And I would also say as well that if you are you need that P&D, like I said earlier on, for whatever thing you've got going on in your life, that you make sure you speak to your manager and you get a P&D put in place. And obviously speak to your local branch. They will support you through that P&D process. And even if as well you get some pushback from your manager about going onto a P&D, at the end of the day, if you need to be on a P&D, the company should support you with that. We will support you with it. So my biggest urge is fill out the survey first and foremost. And also, if you need a P&D, get on a P&D.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. I think the key points that I've got as well is around the wider implications of this, because the notice is being served on individuals in service delivery fibre to the premises now. But if Openreach do this now in fibre to the premises, then Josh, your point of where's next? So it's so important that we hear your thoughts on your attendance patterns, and that we know what attendances are close to your heart, and especially for that work-life balance that you touched, Graham, as well. And if you do there's other responsibilities outside of work that people have, So it's about making sure that there still is those varied attendances for people, and that it's not so there is that balance across the piece. But it also then we need then even people in FTTP to be talking to their friends and colleagues across Openreach. And it is the fact of we've been trying to work with Openreach now for over 2 years to try and avoid getting into this situation. And what has happened now, it could have been even worse again. It could have, what Openreach were hoping to do was to serve notice to move people onto a 5-day week all year round. But we've been able to get it that it's just the seasonal element of it. But even still, it's on your point, Graham. It's about that the business are serving notice and they're imposing this on you, the members.
I think what we need to make sure we do collectively is if we want attendances for the future, we need to have to fight for them, because although the company can come to us and we're happy to negotiate on attendances, we do need to ensure that there is a range of attendances for everybody, and that we don't just concede the fact that they're going to remove options for attendances for the people that we represent and you, the members.
So please, I would urge everybody to please get in contact with your local CWU branch and fill in the survey.